The emergency klaxon screamed through the diplomatic vessel as it plummeted toward the volcanic moon's surface. Daniel Chen, a mid-level security officer from Earth, had exactly 3 seconds to make a decision that would change his life forever. Princess Anna of the Valkyrian Empire stood frozen near the viewport, her bioluminescent skin flickering in terror as the bulkhead began to rupture. The plasma conduit behind her was seconds from breaching, and the superheated energy would vaporize her instantly. Daniel didn't think, he just moved. His body slammed into hers, throwing the princess clear, just as the conduit exploded. White-hot plasma engulfed him, and the last thing Daniel remembered was the searing agony as his arms dissolved from the elbow down, turned to ash by temperatures that could melt starship hulls. Then there was only darkness. When consciousness returned, Daniel expected death. Instead, he found himself staring at an ornate ceiling carved from crystal and stone that pulsed with soft purple light. His body felt wrong, heavy, powerful, and strange. He tried to lift his hands to his face. What rose into his field of vision made his breath catch. They weren't hands. They weren't even prosthetics. Massive claws, each the length of a combat knife, curved from fingers covered in scales that shimmered like oil on water-deep blacks and purples that seemed to absorb light. The scales continued up his forearms, and when he flexed experimentally, he felt raw power surge through muscles that hadn't existed before. Each claw was razor-sharp, and faint wisps of what looked like smoke curled from between the scales. "You're awake." The melodic voice belonged to Anna. She entered the chamber wearing formal robes, her silver hair flowing like liquid metal down her back. Her large, violet eyes showed relief. I wasn't sure you would wake at all. What did you do to me?" Daniel's voice came out rougher than he remembered. Anna moved closer, her expression a mixture of guilt and wonder. "The doctors couldn't save your arms, the damage was too severe. But our medical technology couldn't simply attach human prosthetics. Your body was rejecting everything." She paused, her bioluminescence dimming with distress. "My father, the Emperor, authorized something unprecedented. He opened the sacred vaults, 10,000 years ago. My people's empire spanned 100 systems. We encountered a species we call the Draketharn, beings of immense power who could survive in the vacuum of space and whose claws could tear through dreadnought armor. They were warriors without equal, but they died out millennia ago. All that remained were genetic samples, preserved and forbidden." Daniel stared at his new limbs, watching the scales ripple as he moved. "You used their DNA on me. It was the only compatible match. The Draketharn genetic structure could interface with human biology in ways our technology couldn't predict. You were dying, Daniel. This was the only way." Anna's voice dropped to a whisper. "I couldn't let you die for me." Before Daniel could respond, the chamber doors burst open. A Valkyrian officer in military armor rushed in, his carapace rattling with agitation. "Princess, the Cathro raiders have breached the orbital defenses. They're demanding your surrender, or they'll bombard the capital." Anna's skin flashed bright red anger. Daniel had learned. "How many ships?" 40 warships, Your Highness. Our fleet is scattered. We have perhaps 20 minutes before they're in bombardment range." Daniel stood, surprised at how natural his new body felt. The claws flexed instinctively, and he noticed how the officer stepped back, a gesture of fear. "These Cathral, what are they after?" "They're slavers and pirates," Anna explained. "They want to capture me, use me as leverage against my father. The Empire would be forced to capitulate to their demands. Or," Daniel said, an idea forming, "they could face something they've never encountered before." 20 minutes later, Daniel stood in the airlock of the palace's military dock, wearing a modified pressure suit that accommodated his transformed arms. Anna stood beside him, her face etched with worrying. "This is insane," she said. "You've had those arms for less than a day. You don't know what they can do." Daniel looked at her and smiled. "Your history said the Draketharn could survive in space. Right. Let's test that theory." The outer door opened, and Daniel stepped into the void. The sensation was indescribable. Where he should have felt his lungs exploding and his blood boiling, instead he felt alive. The scales along his arms began to glow with an inner fire, and a transparent membrane slid across his eyes, protecting them. He could breathe somehow. Impossibly, he could breathe. The Cathedral warships loomed ahead, their hulls bristling with weapons. Daniel could see through the viewports, see the reptilian raiders preparing their assault. He drew back one clawed hand and felt energy surge through his arm, not just strength, but something primal and ancient. When he thrust forward, a wave of concussive force erupted from his claws, invisible but devastating. The nearest warship's shields flared and died, and the hull buckled inward like paper. The Cathedral fleet scattered in confusion. What could possibly attack them in open space? Daniel moved like a predator among prey. He tore through shield generators with his claws, the ancient Drakethorn strength allowing him to rip through alloys that should have been impervious. Ship after ship fell dark as he systematically disabled their weapons and engines. Not destroyed, he wasn't a killer, but neutralized. Within 10 minutes, the most feared raider fleet in the sector was drifting. Helpless. When Daniel returned to the airlock, Anna stood there with tears streaming down her luminescent face. "You're not human anymore," she whispered. Daniel looked at his claws, then back at her. "No," he agreed. "I'm something better. I'm what humanity becomes when we refuse to give up, when we adapt, when we sacrifice everything to protect those who can't protect themselves." He flexed his dragon claws, feeling the power thrumming through them. The Cathedral learned something today. Humanity doesn't just survive. We evolve, and now, he smiled. Now I'm the guardian your empire needs. Anna stepped forward and took his scaled hand in hers without fear. "No," she corrected softly. "You're the guardian the entire galaxy needs." Above them, disabled warships drifted in the dark, a testament to what happens when someone underestimates the indomitable will of humanity and the lengths to which humans will go to protect those they've sworn to defend.